Does following Jesus prevent disaster? Yes or no? Maybe, I'm not sure. Well, we're going to be getting into the Sermon on the Mount, the end of it. But again, therefore, let me just go to it and we'll back up. Like we did this morning. Therefore. When you see the word therefore, what is there for? And so he's coming to the conclusion of this, what we call the Sermon on the Mount. In Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7, Jesus gathered his disciples on the side of a mountain. Matthew 5, 1. This isn't in the notes or anything. Now, when he saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. That's where we get the Sermon on the Mount. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them, saying, and from there he began to talk about salt and light, city on a hill, fulfillment of the law, eye for an eye, judging, loving our enemies, giving to the needy, prayer, fasting, do not worry, treasures in heaven, judging others, ask, seek, and knock. And then the part we're going to get to through all this is the last part of it. So anyway, we're going to back up, and then we'll get to this eventually. After completing the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus offered them, those people gathered there, and he offers us two choices in life. We can build our lives on one of two foundations, the rock or the sand. Because in Matthew 5, 6, and 7, the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus was teaching the people then and now, if you come into my kingdom, he said, and live in my kingdom, here's how you're going to live. You're going to be like a good tree. You're going to be like a wise builder. You're going to ask, seek, and knock. You're not going to judge others. You're going to give to the needy. You're going to fast. You're going to not worry. You're going to have treasures in heaven. Here's how you pray. And all these things he taught there in those 3 chapters was saying, that's what it's like to live in my kingdom. And so after he got through with that Sermon on the Mount, he said, now, here's the deal. You got 2 choices. Build your life on the rock or build your life on the sand. And that's the conclusion that we're going to get to in a moment. But let's walk through it a little bit. So he's saying there's 2 foundations, rock and sand. If we build our life, all of our life on the rock, we're building it on the Lord himself, on Jesus. We're building our life on Jesus as our foundation. That way, when trouble comes, and we're going to see in a minute, trouble comes to Christians and it comes to lost people, there's no difference in trouble that comes. Tornadoes come through Christians' homes, just like tornadoes go through lost people's homes. Flooding comes to Christians' home, just like lost people. A crop that fails for the farmer, the Christian farmer, fails just like it does for the non-Christian farmer. And on you could go. We go through problems too, no different than anybody else in the world. But where's our foundation when those troubles come? The Lord himself is our rock. We stand on him. What were we singing a while ago? Church's firm foundation. I shall not be moved. Cornerstone. All of those songs just preach the message tonight because he's our rock. He's our foundation. Or we can build our life on the sand. The sand is self. I can fix it. I can deal with it. I can handle it. I can get through this. I don't need you. I don't need them. I don't need anybody else. Me. I can go through it. I can deal with it. I can handle it. That's building our life on self, which is the sand. Or we can build our foundation on the rock, which is God's truth. God's truth. The truth. Not the world's truth, but the truth. God's truth. Everything in here is God's truth. Or we can build our life on Satan's lies, the sand. We can build it on one of two or the other. Soon I'll be starting writing. There's 4 specific topics that I'll be writing on to begin with. All will be built on God's truth, not Satan's lies. One is this thing about, I'm hearing it more and more about legalizing marijuana across the nation. Let's legalize marijuana across the nation, make it legal to use marijuana. I'll be writing about that based on God's truth, not on Satan's lies. Another one is this whole abortion issue. I hear it all the time. If you think you're going to get elected, you've got to compromise your values about abortion. If you believe abortion is wrong, need a 6 weeks, after 6 weeks you can't have an abortion, you'll never get elected to office. You got to compromise your values. So people are saying, you're right. I need to compromise on that stand. So begin writing on that. Well, what does God say about it? Not Satan's lies, but God's truth. Another issue, this whole thing about two men want to get married. It's fine. No problem. Don't worry about it. It's legal all across the nation. Any state in the union, any state in a country, you can legally get married to, if two men want to get married, two women are going to want to get married. It's perfectly legal. But it's perfectly immoral. It's perfectly not in the Bible. You cannot support that. You cannot stand on it. There's nothing in here that says, yeah, God says, yeah, two men want to get married. Go ahead. I'm okay with that. God doesn't say that. So, and then the fourth one is probably the worst of all these four things. And that is, if a boy says, Mom and Dad, I don't want to be a boy anymore. I want to be a girl. Or a girl says, Mom and Dad, I don't want to be a girl anymore. I want to be a boy. That may be the worst of Satan's lies that he's got going right now. There's nothing in here where God would say, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, little boy. I made a mistake when I created you and formed you in your mother's womb. Yeah, you need to be a girl. You're right. I just made a mistake with you, little boy, or the girl, or whatever, or the teenager, or the man, or the woman, or whoever it may be. And so there's those two things going on in the world in which we live, God's truth and Satan's lies. Where are we going to stand on it? Where is God going to stand on it? Either his truth or his lies, or Satan's lies. So there's two foundations, what God wants or what I want, what God's will is or what my will is. Stability, the rock, the Lord himself gives us stability to go through those problems we encounter. We encounter many problems in homes, marriages, families, jobs, health, whatever. God gives us stability to go through that. The sand, what self wants, Satan's lies, what I want, just gives destruction. The rock allows us to become wise. Wisdom comes only from God, his word, and his will. We get that wisdom, there's our rock. I've got wisdom about whatever it is. Or on the sand, we become foolish, and we'll look more at that in a little bit. Foolish means I make a decision without God intervening. I make a decision without asking God. I make a decision, and I leave God out of my decision. That's becoming foolish. Rock says there's a narrow gate, just a few verses up from where we're going to be. Enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate, broad is the road that leads to, there it is, destruction, and many enter through it. Most people enter through the wide gate onto the wide road, living life like they want to live. Few people enter through the narrow gate and the narrow road. So there's the rock with a narrow gate or the wide gate that leads into the road, narrow road or a broad road, one leading to heaven, one leading to hell. And so he's saying many go through the narrow gate onto the narrow road. Few go through the narrow gate on the narrow road, leads to heaven. Many go through the wide gate, broad road, leads to hell. So meaning this, more people throughout the history of the world will die and go to hell than there will those that go to heaven. Rock, good tree and a bad tree. He talked about watch out false prophets, come you in sheep's clothing. By the fruit you'll recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but bad trees have bad fruit. And so the rock and the sand, good trees, good fruit, bad fruit. Build a life on a solid foundation. Build a life on shifting sand. The rock puts God's word into daily practice, meaning we read what God says and we put it into practice. We don't just read it and say, hey, that was good teaching, that was a good word. Yeah, I like that. We put it into practice. We begin to use it. The sand, we read God's word, but we don't put it into practice. The rock withstands the storms in life. The sand falls to the storms in life. We all go through the same storms. Those that are on the rock, those that are on the sand. Those on the rock withstand the storms of life. Those on the sand do not. So here we go. All that's the introduction. Here we go with the message finally. So that's kind of like this morning, wasn't it? Yeah. Matthew 7:24. Therefore, after he completed all that about the Sermon on the Mount, chapter 5, 6, and the last part of 7. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice like a wise man who built his house on the rock. Where do we get the wisdom? We get the wisdom from founding our life, forming our life on the foundation, Jesus himself. When we do that, we're going to do this. We get the wisdom, we put it into practice, and we become that wise person, and we build our house, our life on the rock of Jesus. Well, the rain came down, the streams rose, the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. So we go through those problems, we go through those trials, we go through those situations that we didn't like, we didn't ask for, we didn't want, but how do we stand against it? Our life is founded on the rock. Our life is being built on the rock. Our very foundation is Jesus himself, and that's how we take a stand. That's who we stand on. When those problems come, we take our stand on him, and we survive those storms that come our way. Don't know what they're going to be day to day. You've been through them. We've been through them. Everybody has. We stand because we have our life and our foundation on the rock of Jesus. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice, we read it, we hear it, we see it, but we don't practice it, we don't do it, we just hear about it, is like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. Foolish man being we did something, we made a decision without asking God. We did not bring him into our decision-making process and say, God, what do you think about this? I'm thinking about doing this. How do you feel about it? What do you think about it? And we get his word, we get his will, we get his ways, and we make a decision. But we leave God out of it. We say, I can make good decisions. I'm pretty smart. I get a good reputation. I made good decisions in the past. Oh, every now and then I made a mistake, but, not that many. Good outweighs the bad and all that. I can figure this out without bringing God into it. And so we make those decisions. That's the foolish man, leaving God out of whatever it is we're deciding to do. We build our house on the sand, no foundation. You ever been to the beach? And the waves come in, and if you're standing on the edge where the water just barely gets your feet, you feel that sand just kind of move out from under you. It's like I'm going to fall over. I'm going to, go out in the ocean or something. That's like this. There's no foundation there. It moves, it shifts. Water comes along, moves that sand around. That's our life without God, without him as our foundation. There we go. The rain came down, streams rose, winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. So you see the two differences there. One stands against the storm, one falls when the storm comes. Well, the question that we had at the beginning, does following Jesus prevent disaster? And the answer is yes. And we ask the question, how? Same storms come to people following Jesus and those who do not. Whatever storms a Christian goes through, lost people go through the same kind of storms. Whatever storms lost people go through, Christians go through the same kind. Problems, like I said before, problems in the family, problems in the marriage, problems with health, death, jobs, finances, whatever it may be, we all go through those same kind of problems. But the difference is the foundation that we build our life on. So then when that problem comes, that situation comes our way, we're able to stand because we have our feet planted on a rock, Jesus himself, and then it can't move us. What was the song a while ago? I cannot be moved. I shall not be moved. Why? Because we've got our feet on the rock. We've got a firm foundation under us so that when that comes, we may sway a little bit, but we're not going to be moved. We're not going to be washed off of it. Not going to fall because our feet are planted firmly on Jesus, not on things of the world. There's the same storms coming, those who do, those who don't. So where's our foundation? Is it built on the rock or is it built on the sand? We avoid destruction by building our life on the rock. But what we've got to make sure we're doing is have our life on the rock before the problem comes, before that situation hits us that we didn't ask for, we didn't like, and we want it to go away. We have to be built on the rock first. Then when it comes, we don't wash away. If we wait until the storm hits, oh, Jesus, come and help me. Jesus says, why? You haven't had your life built on me. You haven't been following me. You haven't been listening to me. You haven't been practicing what I've been teaching. Why should I come and rescue you now? Maybe you need to wash out so that you can learn to put your feet on the rock, the foundation, and let me help you in the future. And I'll help you now, but it's going to be so much harder because you haven't been practicing what I've taught you. And so we have to be prepared for the problems before they ever come. Planting our feet, planting our life on the foundation of Jesus. And so then that way we avoid that destruction. Are we doing that? Is our life founded on the rock? Are we standing firm on the foundation of the rock? Jesus himself, because that's who the rock is. The Lord himself is the rock, his truth, what he wants, and it gives us stability. And we avoid destruction as a result of it. You may find problems in your life this week. You may not have any tonight, but they could come this week. Be prepared before they hit by being solid on the rock of Jesus.